Welcome to the Hallspace Podcast. It's about connections. I'm your host, Dr. Ritch Hall, and this is a weekly conversation about whatever and however I see to connect things. For people who want to connect, chat, and learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Without further ado, let's start the show. Hello, everyone.
Hey there.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Hallspace Podcast. I'm your host, Ritch Hall, and I'm here with my lovely and capable co-host,
Nicole Hall.
Yes.
Stop picking at your thumb.
Sorry.
He can't help it.
They couldn't see my thumb, so they didn't know what I was doing.
You should show them your thumb.
I hurt my thumb.
He sliced it open so he wouldn't have to do dishes.
No, that's not why I sliced it open. I would never do that. I sliced it open while doing dishes. There was a mug that had been broken, and
it was one of my favorite mugs.
Yes. It had her name on it. And so I thought she might want this glued back together if all the pieces are here. And so I put it in the thing and started washing it, and then reached up, and as I was washing it, just sliced my thumb wide open and was like, oh, I think I'm gonna bleed. And then I did start bleeding.
You bled a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And had to call Nicole in to help me patch it up because it was a lot of blood, and my brain was doing that thing where it's like, is this too much blood?
He's like, I shouldn't freak out.
Yeah.
Can you help me not freak out?
Yeah.
Wrap my finger up.
Also, because it was a thumb, it was awkward to try and wrap. So I had this huge bandage on from the first day because it was bleeding so much.
We need thumbs.
Yes. Apparently you need thumbs. You do a lot. I tried to make breakfast yesterday, and it was very difficult without a thumb because there's a lot of things you do where you grab with your thumb. And so I was in pain some of yesterday trying to make breakfast for my family, but I did it with blood and sweat and tears. I made breakfast for my family. And the whole time
I'm yelling like, I could be your thumbs.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we were doing yesterday. So yeah, that was our evening. Or no, that's been the last couple of days. I cut it open Friday evening, and then got all the way through Saturday.
Yep.
And rebandaged it today, so it's less conspicuous. And I will bandage it again before I go to work tomorrow.
Just cutting your thumb.
Just cutting thumbs open. Apparently, that's what people do. Yeah,
it is a thing.
Yeah. I will say that every time I have an injury like this, it's always I didn't have to do that. Like it's always something I did not have to do.
Yeah.
There's always a part of me that judges myself.
Just left
a second later. Yeah, like I didn't even have to go through that action.
Yeah.
I did that once with I was once again cleaning something in the sink. I cut myself so often cleaning. I was cleaning a blade for my mixer, the Ninja blade from a mixer. Those blades are very sharp. That blade
is sharp, though.
That blade is super sharp.
I don't even touch it.
Don't wash it with a sponge. You got to wash it with a brush. Like keep some distance between you and the blade.
So you're not actually touching it.
Yes, because I was washing it with a sponge, similar to how I cut myself with the cup. Washing it with a sponge, sliced my finger right open. Was like, oh shoot.
Yep.
This is gonna hurt, and it did.
And I don't even know who broke my cup, but
yeah, she still feels feelings about the cup. She was apparently
it was a gift cup that had Nicole from it.
Yeah,
and I like coffee mugs.
Yes.
And so when people go out of town,
people bring you coffee mugs.
Bring me a coffee mug with my name on it.
And that mug tried to murder your husband.
so now I hate the mug.
Yeah.
Got to.
Yeah.
It's in the protocol.
It has fallen so far. First, it was the mug was your favorite mug, and now
a
hated mug.
It's a hated mug.
Screw that mug.
And now we have to go back to wherever. And get another mug.
I don't anticipate going back to wherever to get a mug. But
you don't want to go.
We can just get a mug
into the world.
I don't mind the world. I don't hate the world.
Vacation.
Things are getting better. So we've been places, so I'm not against places. I'm just slowly coming to terms with the idea that we can go places again. People are going places. People are not dropping dead in the streets anymore.
Right.
They're still dying in hospitals, but
they are, but
less and less of the people dying in hospitals.
Yeah.
Vaccines are holding up and whatnot. So I am becoming
boosters.
More okay with the idea that people can go outside and that I will be able to go outside and enjoy the world as it is. So we'll see.
We can enjoy the world
and allow.
It'll be with masks, but
yeah, I'm fine with masks. I have nothing against masks.
Yeah.
I'm actually all pro mask.
Me either.
I went to several stores today where people were not wearing masks, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what we're doing. I'm going to still wear my mask though.
Yeah, we went to get those thinglings, and none of those people were.
They don't know what we're talking about when you say thinglings.
So we went to Richie. Is a donut connoisseur.
I'm a donut expert, according to the 2021 Butler County.
Yes, Butler County says he's. Yeah,
I'm a donut expert.
He did the donut trail, which means he went to a bunch of donut shops.
For those of you who don't know, here in Ohio, there is a Butler County donut trail, which features like 12 different donut shops all around Butler County that if you're willing to drive to, you can get a ticket stamped, and then you get a T-shirt for your endeavors.
At the end of it,
at the end of once you get all the stamps. And so last summer,
you and all the kids,
because there wasn't much to do that I felt comfortable taking the kids to, I thought, well, these establishments are open, we could do the donut trail. So on days when I was home, working from home, I would take all the kids on certain days when I knew I had
summer camp was at our house.
All the kids were at our house all summer.
So all of my nieces and nephews plus our children, which was like 9 kids, were here, and you'd pile them up into the van.
Yeah, and we might have mentioned that on the show before. I think
we have. Yep.
Yeah.
Our oldest niece, Jaden, who's 18, was 17 at the time, was watching all the kids, and you're like, hey, we're gonna go get donuts, and so now. Our nieces and nephew are like,
everybody's all snobby about donuts.
We can't do Dunkin' Donuts anymore.
Right. You can't just do, because those donuts suck.
No. And so Richie, a couple weeks ago, was like, they're doing thinglings, cherry thinglings.
I found out there was another tradition around donuts. There is a Schmidt Bakery in Bakersville, Indiana.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Batesville. Batesville, Indiana has a thing called cherry thinglings. They are inspired by the cherry tree story from was that George Washington? Even though it's a myth, they still make these cherry fritters every year. They try to sell 200,000 of them this year, and they came just a little shy. They were like 199,000.
Oh man! So we could have bought more.
We could have definitely bought more. So totally. I told Nicole there was a lot going on last weekend. We haven't had a chance to really update you on that.
We'll do that.
It was my sister's birthday, so that was a big thing. And then I said I need to drive to Batesville to get these cherry thinglings.
Yeah.
And it was genuinely one of those, it floated through the ether because it just happened to be the weekend that they were available that I remembered they existed, because up until then I had not been thinking about them. And then I was like, isn't cherry thingling happening soon? Well, it happens President's Day weekend. So if you don't get them on President's Day weekend, you don't get them.
Yeah.
And so
it's about 40
minutes from where we live west of us, if you're facing the map.
Yep.
And so, I told Nicole I had to drive to get them because they were going to be awesome. I didn't know for sure if they'd be awesome, but for them to have so much hoopla around them, they're always talked about on TV, and they show up in the newspapers and things like that. They talk about how all the lines to get them, and I'm like, okay, let's go drive out there to get them. So on Sunday, we drove out there to get these cherry thinglings, and got to Batesville, Indiana, which is this very small town with its own movie theater,
very small
and a town square and a bakery called Schmidt Bakery.
It's one of those like scary small towns.
It's only scary. Yeah, it's scary to you because you're from Cincinnati and don't travel outside the city very often.
So I mean, it's one of those. They have 5 or 6 blocks. It's in a horror story or one of those old Southern kind of movies.
Yeah. Where they don't like outsiders.
They don't like outsiders. Kind of thing.
Yeah. The sheriff meets you at the edge of town and says,
and they've got zombies in the basement they don't want to tell you about, kind of thing.
Yeah. He says, don't be out here after dark.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not going to go on record and say that Batesville, Indiana, is a sundown town at all, or that it was ever. I don't know for sure. But it gives off a sundown town ambiance. It
does. Well, it's just kind of set up that way with
just because there's somebody there. They were very nice. There was no issue at all.
These are all of our preconceived notions about the town. We have no idea. We don't want to go on, but I mean,
I'm not going to slander Batesville, Indiana on record.
But I feel like because you're from West Virginia, like
to me it was like
definitely
nothing.
Like okay with.
Yeah, I was totally okay.
Yeah, it was like concrete jungle me, man. I can do that. That's fine.
Yeah. When we were younger people and we would drive to like concerts in the middle of cornfields, Nicole would get so anxious.
One of the best concerts that we went to was in Chicago. And it wasn't Chicago. Yeah. It was a cornfield.
That was Rock the Bells.
Rock the Bells. And we got to see Jay-Z and we got to see Rakim and we got to see, like, it was the most
Method Man,
bananas
Redman, and
concert.
De La Soul. And
Oh
it
my
was a
gosh.
very good concert.
It was absolutely the best
I feel
concert.
like Nas was there. It was a big,
big
concert.
Huge. It was huge. And they had chairs. Like comfortable chairs that you could sit in. And then they had like a food mart.
And it wasn't super packed.
It wasn't super packed for the kind of concert it was.
Yeah, for what it was.
Probably because
we were there
it
all
was
day.
in Chicago.
Yeah.
So it was like and Rock the Bells goes everywhere. So like in Philly, so people probably went to the smaller venues, but this venue, middle of a cornfield, a bunch of food venues, little small little restaurants. You could sit there, but to get there, it was like cornfields, and then like a kind of sign that says this is the street you should turn on. And I'm like, am I gonna die? Am I gonna die?
She was super freaked out. And it's like, it's okay. We're just driving through cornfields. Like, it's all right.
Am I going to die?
You're not going to die.
He always says, Slaughter, I'll get you there.
I'll get you there, Slaughter. Calm down.
Yeah.
And so we drove to the middle of nowhere, Indiana, to buy some cherry thingalings, and we got 3 boxes. I gave half a box to my parents. I took a box.
There was
a
line.
Yeah, there was a line.
They were
only 6 people allowed in the store, and they had boxes and bags already.
They had everything already bagged up. Like you could get a dozen, 2 dozen, or 3 dozen, and we're like,
I'll take
the
3
biggest
dozen.
one. Yes. And I'm not a donut person. I'm not a sweet person, really.
Nah.
But if I'm gonna eat a donut, if I'm gonna eat the sugar, it's got to be really good, and it melts in your mouth.
It was so nice and
like a
warm.
Krispy Kreme donut when the hot light is on.
They were really good. They were really good. It was good to eat them warm, and
even the next day they were good. Like, it was heaven. And then they also had, in the vein of cherries, they had a really good cherry wine that.
Well, outside there was winery. Batesville Winery was selling,
and there's also a realtor that was giving away free stuff, which I looked through the bag and it was
nothing of any use. But she had to do it.
She was
on top of that. I remember.
You're going to be standing standing outside for thinglings anyway.
Might as well capitalize on that. Yeah. If I were a smart person and thought that they were all within my demographic, I'd have been like, follow the Hallspace Podcast. Hallspace Podcast.
Oh, hey.
Hallspace Podcast.
We're going to be talking about cherry thinglings on our Sunday night
show. Yeah.
We want to be a part of that? Did not plan on talking about it, but it's something that happened. So.
Yeah, no, it happened and it was fun. And it was fun. I do recommend driving to Batesville, Indiana for cherry thingalings.
Absolutely.
They're apparently worth the time. It was $20 for a box of a dozen, which, factors
for as good as they were. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now, which isn't bad. We balanced it with gas and all that kind of stuff, but it was a nice adventure for a Sunday afternoon after weekend shenanigans, if you will.
Yeah. And I felt I was actually a little pressured because I had a meeting at 3, and so by the time we left, I thought we'd get there a little faster than we did. But we made it, and I made it to my meeting. So
we did.
So yeah. So I don't feel that bad. They were $1.66 a piece if you bought 12 for $20. I went to Buskin's today. Was that Buskin's? Cervati's. Yeah, I went to Cervati's today and bought a donut because they had punch keys. And I could talk all day about punch keys, but punch keys are a Danish donut that are totally only available this time of year. They come out around Mardi Gras and Fat Tuesday and all of that. But they are a Polish donut that is filled with cream or fruit. And they're usually very well made here in the city. Banamini Bakery had the best I'd ever had of punch keys, but also you can get them at Grater's, and you can often get them at Buskin's and other places. I don't endorse all of them necessarily.
I endorse Banamini.
Cervati's had a good one. They got a strawberry cream one, which I love. My point is, I went into Cervati's today to get a donut, and the donuts were $2.12. And I was like, that feels like a lot. Like, when did donuts go above $2?
The donut connoisseur says
it should be like a donut. I mean, come on,
these cherry fritters in Batesville are $1.66, and you want to charge
Cervati's? Are you charging me $2 for a donut?
I mean, and honestly, if we're talking about who's better, what tastes better,
I mean, yeah, I mean,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I felt a ways.
You felt away
about it,
but you bought it.
I was paying for it. Yeah. Here's the thing. Another random aside to that story. I went in and asked for 3 donuts. They gave me 2.
Is that what these are?
That's what that is. They gave me. I'm sorry. They gave me 1 donut, and then I went back in like, wait, where's my strawberry donut? And they were like, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't charge you for it. And I'm like, well, they had charged me like 2 something. And I was like, oh, I thought I got at least 2 donuts in this bag. I walked away with 1 donut. I go back in like, where's my other donuts? And they were like, oh, we didn't give you those donuts. Because when they said 230 something, I was like, okay, that sounds like I bought 3 donuts. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
No, I had bought a donut. I go back in there. And she gives me the other donut, the actual strawberry donut that I had wanted.
Why didn't she give you the donut you asked for?
I don't know. What was interesting is there was a guy who was getting my donuts, and he didn't hear me say put that donut in there. And there was another girl who was like ringing me up.
Okay, so there was a communication.
There was a communication issue, and I'm wearing a mask, and I don't know what's happening. But all I know is I walked out with a donut. I wanted at least 2 donuts. And then she rung up the second donut, and that was when I learned it was $2. And so I spent $4 on 2 donuts. And I'm like, what just happened?
Outrageous.
That is outrageous. What's happening in the world?
You're now that age where you're like,
I remember when donuts were 50 cents.
It
wasn't that long ago.
No, it was not.
What's wrong with the world?
We're getting old.
I'm getting old if I think this is a problem.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And so a lot of donut stories today.
Yeah.
Even though National Donut Day is in June. Maybe we'll do something interesting around National Donut Day.
It's also the best month of the year.
I mean, it's a decent month, give or take.
Best month of the year.
There are better months in the fall.
I feel like it's in the fall. Are you shooting for like November? Is that
better months to be born in?
I mean, June is the summer. So official.
I mean, although I do miss summer. So we've had some heat waves here in Cincinnati. Which have been very nice.
Yeah.
Today was a heat wave day. It was like 40 something degrees. It feels weird only in that, a friend of mine said this on Facebook.
60 degrees.
Yeah. A friend of mine said this on Facebook. Like, why are we always surprised when the temperature goes up 40 degrees every other day?
And then it tanks down
and then drops down to 20 something and then back up to 40, 50, 60 degrees and then back down to 20 again.
Yeah. It's Cincinnati.
That's the way it's always been to live here.
Always.
But you always forget until you're standing in ice and snow, and then the next day it's like 60 degrees again, and you're like, what just happened? And why can't we just get the good weather all the time?
Yeah.
But that's why you move closer to the equator, as opposed to being so far north.
That's totally why.
Yeah, that's why people do it. But you have close to the equator problems like bugs and hurricanes and all those other bad things that happen when you live in the hot parts of the world. I know you say that, but I feel like the first time you have to leave Florida for a hurricane, you'll be like, what kind of BS is this?
I don't know that I want to live in Florida. I used to say.
You all heard that, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that that's on record.
There are other states that are equally as warm and beautiful, right? I mean, you're talking about being a taxpayer of Florida. I feel a way about that. I absolutely feel a way about that. So
feel a way.
I do. I do. I mean, I don't love. There are Ohio politics that I'm not a fan of as well, but
I mean, politics are politics wherever you go.
Yeah, but
you don't escape politics.
You don't, but you'd like to, go somewhere where you kind of enjoy maybe.
There are no utopias.
Yeah.
Everywhere has compromise.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to compromise the weather or the beach. So,
but as humans, we always think, maybe if I figure it out, like we always think we could figure out.
Yeah. I mean, there's still like these funny memes about people telling people not to move to Atlanta, like we don't have no more room for y'all.
I do believe that they do want people to stop coming to Atlanta.
I by no stretch of the imagination ever want to live in Atlanta. No. I mean, honestly, outside of taking the kids down there for historic purposes, I would never need to go there again.
Oh,
yeah.
There's a part of me that like, wait. I'd like to visit as part of the like national United States tour of America.
No,
Atlanta's a place to stop and probably eat. Atlanta's got some good places to eat.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah. I made the mistake of following too many food places on my Instagram. So very often I will be tantalized by food that I cannot eat without a plane.
Yeah.
And it's always frustrating.
Yeah.
When you see this place, like they'll be like making some food and showing you B-roll footage of food, and you're like, "Oh, can I go get that this?" But no,
and therein lies the problem. I mean, yeah.
So I'm just gonna get my pilot's license and fly everywhere I want to go, and just pop somewhere for lunch. That doesn't make sense.
You keep talking about getting this pilot's license, and you know, I don't know that that's a good idea.
I don't know why it wouldn't be. I don't see the problem.
I don't know, crashes, death.
I mean, there are way more car crashes than there are plane crashes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you would be like the anomaly, though. You'd be like,
no. Why do you assume? Why are you wishing death upon me?
I'm not wishing death upon you, which is why you're not going to get your pilot's license. Saved your life. You're welcome.
I'd be safe in the air.
I don't know about that. I don't know that I believe that.
You have no reason to believe that I wouldn't, is the thing.
Are we going to be those people, though? Like, you get a house and then you have like, you go to Lunken Airport to get your plane, like
that would be nice. Just have my own plane.
There's a couple of and this might be in Florida or wherever, where all of the people in this gated community have airplanes, and so they all have landing strips like as a part of their backyard and boats and all that kind of stuff. And it looks of course, it was a true crime show where somebody got murdered, but that's a different kind of living there, Yeah.
Just as an update, apparently mask mandates are going away. That's weird. We're very close
everywhere.
The CDC is saying that we don't have to wear, that risk for COVID is low now.
But the risk for you breathing on me is still very high.
What you're saying is you never want people to breathe on you again?
I never liked people breathing on me in the first place. I have a thing about that. Yeah. And with the way my immune system is set up, yeah.
People who are still at risk should still wear masks, and you're still technically within the category of at-risk population. So you should probably continue to wear your mask. But everybody doesn't have to wear a mask. So welcome to precedented times again. Maybe this is on the way out. And while it is, we'll slowly but surely just slide into World War III, apparently.
Praying for the people in Ukraine.
Yeah, everybody's talking about Ukraine.
Yep.
When I was doing the pre-show, like, what are the subjects of the week? It was like Ukraine. I don't know anything about Ukraine, and I'm just going to remain relatively ignorant about this geopolitical issue because I'm tired, and
it's exhausting.
That's probably not a good place to be emotionally.
Burnt out.
But I've been doing pretty good about staying out of the news cycle by just saying this probably doesn't even matter to me. I was reading an article. I bumped into a rather random article on local channel 12. Shout out to local channel 12 and Bob Herzog. And you scroll down to the bottom and you're looking at another article and it's like, woman decapitates baby. You're like, what the heck is going on there?
Yeah.
And then you read that story and it's like, that happened in Las Vegas? Or no, it was actually kids stabbed by mom. Kids stabbed their own mother or something. Like there were like 4 or 5 different horrific stories.
Yeah.
None of them happened locally. They were just largely clickbait stories. Right.
And read the story.
And I was like, the news does this. I know they do this. Why am I giving into it? So some of the Ukraine stuff is, okay, this thing is happening. It is not within my pay grade to be able to change these events. So I'm gonna just
you can still pray for them.
Sure. I pray for the leaders and the people on the ground
that they can really
who are negatively affected by these outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all those affected, hopefully this doesn't turn into a big World War III
scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of vested interest in making sure that it does not become that.
Yeah.
I think it definitely feels like we're just trying to make a big thing a thing. But also I'd like to just not have to,
honestly, with the pandemic, those like, this is just like the flu kind of thing. Like when it first started, and then it became.
I mean, we could totally slide into a totalitarian regime. I don't know.
I hope not.
I would like to hope that I'll see it coming, but I also know I'm a little exhausted by world events affecting me on a daily basis.
I'm exhausted by everything, but I did the same thing. I was looking at the news, and I don't know. I think I was reading something interesting but relatively benign, and it was like, this guy finds out that his best friend is molesting his son, and he shoots him in the at the airport, and like it was a whole like I fell down that rabbit hole, totally fell down that rabbit hole because it's a true crime thing. But yeah, it's like you read that, and then there are multiple lines under that of just horrible stuff happening, and it's like, ugh, just cannot do that. I try to avoid that. It's so exhausting.
Yes, it is very exhausting. It's very hard to keep up. And one of the things my friend Terry Huddleston says, you don't have to watch it, you can just turn it off. And I was like, you know what, you're right, my friend, I'm gonna do that.
You can avoid it. You totally turn that stuff off, and
yep, and just not pay it any mind. So I did that.
Yeah I'd like to be able to do that with social media at some point.
I've had a very contentious relationship with social media, at least for the last 2 weeks. I'm like, I need to stop doing this. And then I find myself automatically doing it. And then I'm like, oh no, why am I still doing this? I don't like doing this.
There's some of it that is just a huge time sink, right?
Yes.
Where you're just
absolutely
scrolling, and you're trying, and your brain is spinning, right? And then there's a part of it that
scrolling.
And then there is a part of it that's like, oh man, this is really interesting, this is funny, this is uplifting, this is and then there's some of it that's just dark, and you fall down this rabbit hole of things. And so it's all of those things all at once. And so curating that is incredibly hard when you're burnt out and tired.
It's very weird to live in a stage of the world where I can simultaneously see the thoughts of a person I went to high school with and what they think about their lunch today, and also get information about some new random Bitcoin thing that I don't care about, and also hear about global warfare within a span of like 5 thumbs moves. And I'm like, oh man, this is a lot. And then I'm like, why am I on this again? And then I try to log out, and then I come back to it. So I know that it's hijacking my reward system, but also I just give in. It's like me and sugar, just keep doing the thing even though I know I'm not supposed to do the thing. It's unfortunate. Yeah Be that as it may, this is a good enough time to take a break, so we are going to pause for the cause and take a commercial break, and we will be right back with more from the Hallspace Podcast.
See you soon.
You're still looking at us. Hi. And we're back.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome back to another episode of the Hallspace Podcast. I'm Ritch Hall, your host, and I'm here with my lovely and capable co-host,
Nicole Hall. Hey there.
Hey, and we are wrapping up our third episode of our third season. I never told you, but we switched over to our third season in January.
Surprise.
Yeah, because we took such a long hiatus. I was like, why not just start a new season here as I was numbering the episodes. And so, we've had a couple episodes into our new season here in 2022. I'm following, I don't know that I'm following any rhyme or reason around the seasons. The numbering is just, this is our 63rd show, I think. Season 3, doing new things. It's another rebirth of the show as we try to come up with things to talk with you about out there in the internet space as we bring the Hallspace to your ears every week, which is not easy to keep up with. We've had a lot of things happening. My sister's birthday was last week, as we briefly mentioned before.
Whoop. She turned big 40,
and so she had an extravagant party at a Airbnb.
It was so nice.
It was very nice. I made her breakfast for that morning.
The biggest brunch ever.
Yes, made the biggest brunch ever. It reminded me why I don't want to run a restaurant. Everybody has that, like, it's like saying, I want to start a band, I want to start a restaurant. You have those ideas until you're actually trying to make food for 20 people.
Yeah.
And then you're like, this is a lot. And I have to keep moving like this. Wow. And you feel really happy when they're eating your food and enjoying it. But the process of getting all of it and trying to mentally organize your thoughts to do the thing is just, not something I'm equipped for to do as a job.
And it was at an Airbnb, so
it was not my own kitchen.
Everything.
You had to cart everything over. I'm forgetting things, so I'm texting Nicole every 5 minutes, like, "Could you bring this? And could you also bring this? And could you also bring this?"
And
then she got there, and by then I had solved all those problems, so I didn't need half of it, unfortunately. But I did appreciate that she was willing to bring it.
I did.
Some of it was just, me working through my anxiety about doing this for, I'm used to making my breakfast for my family every week, but like to do it now for people whom I don't know. The fact that my sister had invited chefs to attend, not to attend the breakfast, but she had chef for the dinner that evening.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I'm going to be competing with a chef. Like, they're going to remember this weekend and remember me making food.
Yeah.
So I got up really early and made cinnamon rolls by hand. And
they were really good.
They turned out really good. And I was a little upset afterwards because, you make a bunch of cinnamon rolls for people and then you come home and you don't have cinnamon rolls because you gave them to all the people. Yeah. So now I need to make cinnamon rolls just for myself, but it's not really an arduous process. It's just like
it's a process nonetheless.
3-4 hour commitment of your life, which I could do any weekend I wanted, but I don't do it very often.
Yeah.
It takes away the specialness of them if you were doing it every weekend.
Yeah.
It's like smoking meats. I don't do that as often as I was doing during the quarantine either, but I wish I had taken up some of this baking during the quarantine when I was home and had the time. Maybe during the summer when I'll have
stuff happens when it's supposed to happen, though.
Yeah. No, mentally I'm always like, maybe I should have done this more. Maybe I should do more. We'll see. Yeah. That's the eternal being a person like me who thinks you should be doing more all the time and trying to put it in perspective. So speaking of perspective, we had my sister's birthday. She turns 40, but then also we had a funeral this week for a friend of mine's father, Ronald Harris. Passed away 3 weeks ago. He was a friend of the family when I was a child, who lived at my parents' home as a teenager. Ronald and his dad moved across the street, so I was friends with Ronald Harris's son, Ron, also named Ronald Harris. So we were two boys with our father's name.
Yep.
Our families were friends because we lived right across the street from each other.
Yeah.
And so we hung out a lot. Like, we were pretty inseparable during junior high and high school. I think mostly high school. He didn't live there in junior high. High school for me, but then I kind of drifted away. Like, I still consider him a really close friend, but don't see him a lot because I'm, raising a family. He's raising his own family. And his father passed, and his father was also important because he, not just being his father, but important in my life because he also gave my children, my son, Ra, his first haircut, which, we would take him over there and he would cut his hair, and
he was a year and a half
super nice
old.
with him. And he was a super funny guy.
He was great to be around. Him and his wife, Elizabeth, were always so welcoming. And so we would go over there every 2 weeks,
every 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep, to get Ra's haircut. And Ra was he's a good baby, but when it comes to weird sounds and things he's not used
new
to,
things,
new things,
he was always very easily upset.
So good with him,
Yeah. And so it was interesting to, have my own experiences with Mr. Ron, and then go to his funeral and see all these people that he knew that I did not know.
They had their own experiences, with him. And it was great to see
that he was a deacon at New Jerusalem Church, which is a historical Black church in Cincinnati, ran by Reverend Damon Lynch, Jr. Senior. Damon Lynch Senior. Yeah.
Junior did
no, that was Senior. That did
isn't it run by a junior though?
I don't know.
No, either.
Either way,
we have our own church that we gotta.
yeah. But it's a historical Black church. It's one of the oldest Black churches in Cincinnati, New Jerusalem, and Reverend Damon Lynch was a civil rights leader in his day, and so it was the first time I got to hear him preach for the funeral, and that was a really good, sermon.
Yeah, he was also pretty funny. I thought.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah. Charismatic leader. So I can understand how he's been, leading his church for so long. It was.
I've heard him at times before, way back.
Yeah,
when I was younger, but yeah.
Yeah, so it was a nice funeral, but it definitely, Nicole has all these ideas about what she does not want for her funeral. She keeps telling me, like, don't do this at my funeral. And I'm like, you're not going to be here to stop me. And to quit telling me how to grieve for you.
I'm just asking for, I do have very specific things.
Yeah. As if she can control how our grief process is going to go. She's like, don't be reading cards at my funeral. It's like, why wouldn't we read cards at your funeral? Those people sent the cards. They have
I know
read the proclamations.
Well, there are tons of, my grandmother got a proclamation, but we didn't read it at the funeral.
You should have. Make those people listen to the proclamations.
And make the people listen to the proclamations.
It's the last time they're going to be gathered together for you. The least we could do is a ceremonial reading of the cards.
Reading of all the cards and the proclamations. Or my thought process is, let people come up and tell their stories about the person.
That is one thing they didn't do at his funeral. They didn't let people come up and tell stories.
I feel like that's imperative. I feel like that is so much more important than the cards and the proclamation. I mean, the cards and the proclamations are ways that people are saying, we love this person.
They were valuable to us.
I'm not saying that those things aren't important, but what I am saying is, in the time slot that you have to do what you need to do, everybody, or the people that are able to and willing to, having the ability to go up and say
some words about
the person, their experience of the person, their favorite story about all the things that have ever been helpful to me in my grieving are the stories that people have of my grandmother or my grandfather. Their experiences of them, and being able to hear those stories are always so great, because you don't always get to know all of those people. And
once again, all those people are often from different facets of a person's life. So you never really get this full picture of a person. And it is sort of valuable to know how they are seen through the eyes of others. That's one of the things that when I go to funerals, like, you're not really, it's interesting because people do have phones at funerals and now they take pictures, but like coming up as the guy in my family who always took photographs, I'd be the weirdo at a funeral, just like taking all these pics. And some of the pics that are really the most valuable to me are at times where my family was gathered for a funeral, particularly my dad's side of the family, who I don't get together with as often. But there are often these moments that I'm like, oh, I want to capture this for the future.
Yeah.
Because as you talk about some of those stories and things, it's stories you've never heard. And it's not like you'll get back with these particular people on this
in that
same way to hear this story again. So some of it is kind of, going to be lost to time. And there's always a part of me that is, particularly in those moments, keenly aware of things that are going to be lost to time. Just because I've been the archivist for my extended family and my family for so long. I'm like, this is kind of valuable. Someone should write this down, or make sure you keep a sliver of this, because it's going to get lost if we don't.
People that are family historians are people that love to collect that information or have that information, are often thinking of those things when you have these moments,
because you need people to be in the, everybody else is going to be in the moment. You need a person I've just always sort of taken that role to be like, no, let's keep a piece of this so that later when you're down or when you're going through your time hop, you'll see a picture that says this is where you were that day, and that this was why this is important. That's why it's always kind of sad to me, that those are supposed to be sacred spaces. People aren't usually taking photographs or videos in those spaces. They take a few, but not like it's not like a wedding where there's someone constantly taking pictures.
So I don't know when or how that type of tradition changed. I know that there are, and I've followed a couple of the sites, but I had to stop because it just felt really sad. But there are way back families who did have a photographer take pictures at the funerals of the body, of the casket, that kind of stuff. And
I'm familiar with that.
Been ways to memorialize the person. And so I have seen that. I don't know how I feel about it, but I understand the importance of trying to capture the moment. One of the interesting things for me at funerals is seeing who comes, right? There are people that you expect to be there, right? The closest members of the family, media, all that kind of stuff. But then there are people who come who may have only had a few brief interactions with that person, and it's always interesting, like, that they felt so compelled to come to the funeral, to be there. I remember seeing people at, my dad passed when I was 16, my grandmother, my grandfather, and it's always interesting to see the people that come that that show up for the funeral to kind of pay their respects. For the people who can come, because there are some people who cannot go,
who can't make it,
who can't
bring themselves,
just cannot do it. So and that's that's understandable. As well.
Everybody grieves in their own way, and we have
do.
these traditions for a reason. You can't completely eschew the funeral because people need the things that need to get done so that we can essentially emotionally and psychologically close the chapter on that person, which is why I'm like, hey, you can't tell me what all I'm going to do to grieve for you. Why are you trying to control the outcomes even after you're no longer alive? Like,
I feel like there are so many things that were in my head that like I don't know that I want my children to look at my body after I've
but
passed.
They might need to see your body to know that you have passed. Like, that's like one of the things that people need to do to go through the process of grief. Like, why are you what if they want to?
I was there when my grandmother passed, but I could not view my grandfather's body. That was just it was too much. You know what I mean? And so it's like, there's some things that are like, oh, we do it because we have to do it. And it's like, but for the person that's grieving, is that okay for them? And then do you look like you don't care if you don't, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. My father is a pastor. I don't know if I brought that up on the show a lot, but
a lot.
We, I spent a lot of time in church growing up and at a lot of funerals. So, when you're used to being involved in that life, you develop a certain, I wouldn't say a callous to it, but you're like, oh, okay, this is how this has to happen. Like,
process.
This is the way it goes. And that's one of the things I will say about like society moving away from religion. Religion helped us keep some things intact so that we didn't feel unmoored when it comes to these, spiritual events, these human events that happen to everyone. And it at least gives you a template or a schema through which to understand these events and to process these events. And I think that can't be completely cut out.
No, I agree with that.
And so
that experience is imperative because it's going to happen. Right?
And you need a way to deal with it. And this is the process by which we learn to deal with it. And there are ways in which tradition can very much become an anchor that stops you from growing in certain directions. But there are ways in which it can also be a guide that keeps you on track around certain things.
I will say this
psychologically and emotionally.
I will say this. My grandparents were we were in the Baptist church. We were raised in the church essentially. And, we were, put into the choir as kids and all that kind of stuff. And so I was always at church and participating in things. And as a part of the choir, we sang at funerals a lot too. And so, yeah, I get that it's kind of part of the process, right? Part of kind of what you do, when you're part of a church body, and, you're doing what you feel like is your job, right?
Yeah.
We're ministering to these people as they grieve, and that's, an important job. You take it seriously and things like that.
Yeah.
And then someone close to you dies. And I mean, I will say, like, maybe that first time it hits you, all that, like, you have, what's supposed to happen, there's a process, that there are people to help you through that process, that does kind of help you wrangle in the grieving, and all of that happens. That first time though is incredibly hard.
Well, that's sort of one of, right, going back to what I was saying about being in a religious community, then you don't have to carry that alone, right? So
right,
if
because
you're
they are
ensconced, then you've done this for other people. Someone shows up and does that for you.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I remember as a value of this process every time that we are involved in it. And as we get older, we're becoming, I feel like, involved in it more and more.
Yeah. It's inevitable.
Yeah, it becomes inevitable. So it's like being able to do this for other people means someone's there to do it for you. And my family has been the people to carry for other people many times. Which is why when some of the things happened in your family, as far as some of the deaths, it was like, oh, I just sort of fall into, this is what happens. This is what you're supposed to do next. You help someone write the obituary, and you know that people's feelings are all over the place, but you help them get to these meetings and appointments that suddenly happen when you got to close the business of someone.
It's a
whole process. Like somebody has a whole life, and you now have to collapse that life and put it away. And it's and like all the
this box,
basically. And the whole tapestry of who they are has to be folded up and put away somewhere. And all the stuff they come with, and all the things they've done, all the people they know.
Like, you've lived a whole life, so your whole essence is your furniture, your
all that makes you, and you don't think about it every day until somebody has to put it all away because it's now in the way of other people living their lives. The houses that have to be taken care of, apartments, whatever,
furniture, like, it's just all kinds of
and then a million conversations.
There have to be. And I mean, and with the way that it works, someone passes away, they're trying to bury him in a week or two, which is a lot.
Trying to put him in the ground
not
in a week or two,
that much time
to close all their affairs,
all the things. And so I mean, one of the things I will say is, having been through the process of grieving, when my sister Mo, her dad passed, was like, oh yeah, I know what this feels like. I know kind of how this process works. Different for every person, but being able to kind of be there for them, it's like, okay, well, that makes my experience that much more helpful. So, but I mean, I still have lists for you. I mean,
I love that you're trying to control how other people are going to grieve for you.
I don't know. I think that's just kind of, I mean, it's the way that
maybe your way of the enormity of the possibility
of being immortal. I mean, like, you're not immortal. Like, you know that this is
and we all find our own ways to process that, and your way is telling me what to do about when you go, which I guess we should be writing this down. Which we're not sponsored by anybody, but this is definitely an episode that could be sponsored by a life insurance or a lawyer who does wills and end of life plans and end of life care. Those are definitely things you should be thinking about. Because the day comes whether you want to or not, and no one knows the hour, no one knows the day.
Right. There was one of the other things that I've always appreciated, at least in Cincinnati, there were a handful of people that we worked with at Spring Grove that were really great at helping us through the entire process of what Mo and I call deathing. So yeah, I mean, it's
well, yeah, because for some people it's a business. They do it every day.
Business.
So in that same way that you make code every day,
and they don't have to do it with class. They don't have to do it with care. I mean, it's just kind of
pretty sure to be more successful, you gotta, in the same way that you express emotional intelligence. So
yeah, but I mean, it's just like doctors. I mean, you would think they have to also be careful, but some of them are. I've met a lot of doctors that don't believe my pain, so it's kind of. But so yeah, there was and I wish I could remember who we were talking with, but we went to Indiana, and Mo had no idea what she needed to do or how she needed to do it, and he gave us the truth. He was honest, and he helped us do it within her budget and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff is really important when you're grieving and when you're trying to figure out, you don't have a living will, you don't have all this other kind of stuff. It's just, you just know your dad died and you're his daughter, and that's it. Right. So when you meet those kind of people, man, those are God's people. Honest to goodness. When they're in that business, and it was a family business in Indiana. And when you encounter those kind of people, man, they're like, they can
be very helpful to have people who just get that you need more help. And
and they're not trying to take you. You know what I mean? Like, he could have,
or if they are, they're just doing it in a nice way. So what is it?
But then you find out later.
Like, maybe not. Once the person's gone, you don't know.
No, because what happened? Well, if I find somebody that I like, then I come back to you. Right?
Yeah. If you have to, I mean,
deathing, you're gonna have to, and that's not something that you're like shopping around. It's like, yeah, okay, my dad died, now my mom died. I'm gonna go back to the same person because
you're loyal.
I'm loyal. Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, it's important to, particularly in that business, be decent, right? I mean, it's
ideally you should, but I mean, capitalism and all, you might be rewarded for not being decent. Depends.
You're a pessimist.
No, just I know people, and some of those industries aren't full of people that are nice because they have
I mean, humans are going to human wherever they go. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm saying that, this guy in particular was
good
great.
Guy.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come around on another episode of the Hallspace Podcast. But thank you for watching us or listening. If you're listening, these do air live most of the time now. Every now and again, I will just tape an episode and then put it out. But these are mostly live.
They go straight out to YouTube, which is why I love it. Boom.
Yeah. But then sometimes I'm in the background doing editing and stuff to make them even prettier and to add the background music, which does not happen when we do the live show. So.
Yeah, Chuck works hard.
Chuck is doing all this work and there's no reward.
You could just leave it.
Yeah. I got different audiences.
Okay.
There are like 14 people who listen to the podcast, audio only. And they do not come back to watch the live shows, but they do listen to the audio somewhere out there. I don't know where they are. But
you know what the music means.
You know what the music means. Our time is up.
I say good day, sir.
I say good day. The Hallspace Podcast is brought to you by Hall Productions, LLC. Show notes and credits can be found at our webpage, thehallspacepodcast.wordpress.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns can be sent to us at thehallspacepodcast@gmail.com. The show is written by Dagger Penn Davis. Music is curated by DJ Cabal. The show is produced by Chuck Jones and recorded at Slash and Trash Studios. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good week.